Have you ever had a moment where your entire life suddenly felt louder? And not loud in a sense of noise and chaos, but louder in terms of awareness. You start noticing things that you used to ignore. You notice that the conversations that you have feel a little different. Even the relationships start to feel heavier. Your job, your habits, even the way that you talk to yourself becomes a bit outdated. Think of your favorite sweater that you have washed a million times. And yes, it's still your favorite because you're so used to wearing it and you feel comfortable in it. But then you start to realize that you've probably put it in the dryer a bit too many times and now it feels a little bit snug. Well, that's the feeling of going through an awakening. It's realizing that what used to be comfortable to you no longer fits. If you've been feeling like that lately, you might not be lost. You might be waking up. And today I want to talk about what an awakening is, why it can feel so uncomfortable, and how to leave behind those old patterns that no longer belong to your story. Because that awakening could seem like it's this big spiritual word that's always being thrown around, when in reality, it's the turning point. It's that moment when you realize that what used to work works no longer. All right, welcome to the Main and All podcast, and this is episode 30. We are halfway through season 2, and I'm so glad that you're here. And yes, we're going to talk about what it means to go through an awakening. An awakening is basically when you're on autopilot and all of a sudden it shuts off. You're on cruise control, and now all of a sudden you have to take the wheel because you need to figure out where you're going. You know, for years, most of us move through life on default settings, and then we repeat those same emotional patterns. We're dating the same kind of people over and over. We end up tolerating nonsense that we shouldn't be tolerating. We even shrink in the rooms that we shouldn't be shrinking in. And we call that normal because this is what normal has looked like for us. But then one day, everything shifts. Maybe it could be because of a heartbreak or disappointment. Maybe you've outgrown the spaces that you're in. And it could just mean that one day you're sitting on your couch and you realize, wait a minute, this isn't working for me anymore. What the heck am I doing? Why am I living like this? And that question is powerful because it can take you in any direction, depending on how you look at it. And that's the moment that you start questioning the life that you've been tolerating. So that's when your awareness expands. You may begin to notice who drains your energy, what are the environments that are dimming your light, the ways that you've been abandoning yourself just to keep the peace. And that awakening isn't always a magical feeling. It could be very uncomfortable. But sometimes it feels like outgrowing everything at once. It's not always little pieces. Sometimes it's everything. It's like going to a storage unit and saying, oh my God, why am I keeping all this crap? I need to just dump this, especially if you're paying for it. I mean, come on. So here's the part that nobody talks about. Awakenings can feel quite messy. And when you start to see things clearly, you really can't unsee it anymore. That's the point when you realize that you've been accepting less than you deserve. You've been shrinking your voice to appease other people. You've been chasing validation from people who were never capable or equipped to give it to you. And that's a realization that can sting a little because, especially if it's been going on for years and years. So growth is kind of funny like that. You start to notice the little things. It's like turning the lights on in a room you've lived in for years and suddenly noticing all the, the dust on the table, the clutter in the corner. At first you're like, how did I end up living like this? What was I thinking? But the beautiful part is that seeing it means that if you have acknowledged that it needs to be changed, you may have not noticed it before, but again, awareness means that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And that awareness is a doorway to your transformation. Now, let's talk about the hardest part of awakening. And the hardest part is really letting go of the old patterns that have kept you stuck for so long. And those patterns can look pretty sneaky if you're not paying attention. But again, we cannot unsee it now. They're going to feel uncomfortable. They may feel familiar and even feel like this is your home. This is what you've known all of your life, even when it's not good for us. You may recognize patterns like over-explaining yourself because you want to feel a sense of approval from others. You may end up chasing people who barely show up for you because, they're your friends, right? They're your family. You may end up ignoring your intuition, thinking that something will change eventually, when in reality, something in your heart, something in your soul is telling you that it's not. But you keep having faith in the unseen. But remember, you cannot unsee it now. And it looks like settling for crumbs when you could be having full buffet. Breaking patterns requires something very powerful. It requires the conscious decision to make better choices. So every time life gives you the opportunity to repeat the old story, you get to pause and ask yourself, is this the version of me that I'm becoming or the version that I'm leaving behind? Stopping and reflecting on that is your power. That's where your power lives. Once you start realizing old patterns, something interesting happens, and your life begins to rearrange itself. Some relationships may fade because they no longer align with you. Some opportunities could also appear out of nowhere because now you're in the place that you want to be. So now you're seeing opportunities that you may have not recognized before. While at the same time, some doors will close that you thought would stay open forever. And at first, it can feel scary, but imagine your life being a garden. If you want new things to grow in that garden, sometimes you have to clear space first, right? Because if you have a garden full of weeds, if your garden looks like crap, guess what? What flower is going to want to grow from there? You have to pull the weeds out, you have to turn the soil, and plant your seeds where the sun hits the ground, right? You want to let sun reach places that it couldn't before. And your awakening is that clearing of all the things that are no longer necessary in your life. It makes room for healthier love, stronger boundaries, deeper confidence, and a life that actually reflects who you are now, not who you used to be. One of the most important things to remember during an awakening is that you don't have to have everything figured out immediately. Awakenings aren't always about having all the answers. Remember, it's about recognizing that things need to change. And it's about asking better questions as well. The questions can reveal a lot for you. What are the things that truly align with me? What kind of life feels expansive instead of exhausting? Who am I when no one is looking? Who do I become when I stop betraying myself and my own needs, my own values? So the more honest that you are with yourself with those questions, the more your path becomes clear. And step by step, you will get to make better choices. So if you feel like you're in the middle of an awakening right now, I want you to know something. This is not the moment when you fall apart. And yes, things may be falling apart, but this is when you get stronger because you're shedding things that no longer work anymore. You're releasing these old identities, these outdated beliefs that kept you stuck in places and rooms and relationships that were dragging you down. And you recognize that those patterns no longer match the person that you're becoming right now. So think of it like upgrading your phone. We all have phones, hopefully. And think about it. Phones get updates all the time. Imagine if you're the same updates that you had from, 2016, you still have those same updates. You've missed out on so much. Poor phone. Oh, poor raggedy phone, right? But even phones get updates. Even they get awakenings, right? They get to feel refreshed. They remove dead things that no longer align with them. The old codes are gone. You get new code. You get faster processing. Same thing with you. You have to maintain it. So you delete files. If you have programs or applications that you're no longer using, you remove them so that you could make space for better things or newer apps that are actually more productive, more engaging, more beneficial to you. And as a result of you doing that work, right, on your phone, again, I'm using analogies here, but you start to run smoother. You become stronger, right? When hackers or, scammers try to get through, they can't. And you could use it as a reference for anything because hacking or contaminating your phone viruses can mean, in your life, could mean people, places, and things and relationships and anything that no longer works. Now, would you let your phone have a bunch of viruses? No. So that's what you have to do with yourself. That version of you is on the other side of this awakening. You will become wiser. You will become more self-aware. And you will no longer be willing to live small. So if life feels like it's shifting lately, don't panic. I think we're all going through this right now. I think we're going through a collective awakening right now, to be honest. It's gotten to the point where we're realizing that what we used to believe, tolerate, accept no longer works. We're all going through that right now. I think it's a world awakening at this point, which is not a bad thing. I think it's a much needed turn of events. So I'm hoping that you're acknowledging that and recognizing that you too need to believe that you're on the verge of your own awakening because you're stepping into the most authentic chapter of your life. And honestly, that's where the magic begins. This is when you get to truly be yourself, truly believe that the next chapter that is coming up for you is for sure and most definitely better than when you were. So don't fight it. Embrace the awakening and see where it leads you. That's my challenge for you this week. Thank you so much for listening. We are halfway through season 2. I just want to say that no matter what is going on with you, no matter where you are right now, no matter what you're feeling, I want to send you good vibes. I want you to know that things always get better, that life is about ebbs and flows, and you will get through anything that you're going through right now. I know that a lot of people are hurting, but we're going to get through it together, okay? All right, so thank you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I appreciate you. So until next time, bye.